I'm Nick, and we're checking out something very interesting today. We're at Samsung HQ here in Sydney, getting hands-on with an early version of the new G60SF, which is a 500Hz OLED panel that shares a lot of the similarities that we saw with MSI's new panel. But what we're gonna do in this video is our regular monitor thing. We're gonna dive in, and I'm gonna let you guys know exactly what it's like using a 500Hz gaming monitor. The difference being is, I've already got experience with 500Hz panels, and this one is essentially the same panel. Let's do a monitor thing. Yep, the intro is a little bit different, but I think we should travel back to the studio in a couple weeks' time after we've given the G60SF a good run for its money. I think the real question is, do you need something that does 500Hz? I've answered this question before, and the answer is not so much as a need, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And right from the jump, the G60SF starts to feel familiar, almost like I've used this panel before. And the truth is, it's because I have, but in the form of the MSI MAG 272QP X50. If you want to see what I said about that monitor, there is a link down below in the description. While the G60SF and the MSI panel are technically similar, that doesn't tell the whole story. Let's start off with the most important details, the price and when you can get your hands on the G60SF. The price will set you back from what I'm estimating to be around $999 US. Samsung doesn't have the pricing for the US yet, but I do have the Aussie pricing, which should be around about 1,700 Aussie dollars at the time of filming this video. Keep in mind that I say at the time of filming this video, but the G60SF will only be available in August. As mentioned at the start of the video, Samsung invited us to check out the G60SF almost a month ago at their HQ here in Sydney to get hands-on with it. The bonus being that when I did that, I just finished off with the MSI panel, so the experience of 500Hz panels was still pretty fresh in my head. The Samsung Odyssey G6 G60SF features a 27-inch 2560 by 1440 QD OLED panel with a refresh rate of 500Hz. It also has a response time of 0.03 milliseconds gray to gray with a 1.5 million-to-1 contrast ratio. The G60SF supports 99% of the DCI-P3 color space, and it's also Pantone certified. So if for some reason you wanted to edit your next Hollywood blockbuster on a 500Hz 1440p gaming OLED panel, you could, right? I don't know why you would want to do that, but interestingly, the G60SF has a matte anti-glare screen surface, which is something I like, especially if you're in an environment like where I am now with dynamic lighting. When I do these kind of videos and I'm tinkering with panels, it's usually in the daytime, and most of the time it's in full daylight, and the G60SF had no issues, whereas some of the other glossy OLEDs are kind of like staring into the sun via a mirror. As far as connectivity, there's some things people are gonna hate because, you know, it's the internet. It features two HDMI 2.1 ports, a single DisplayPort 1.4 port, which is more than capable of 500Hz at 1440p, guys. It's all good. A USB Type-B uplink port and two USB Type-A ports, as well as a headphone jack. Almost everything you're gonna need, except a KBM. All the rest of the specs here they're pretty irrelevant because you wanna know what the story is with this thing, right? It's a 500Hz OLED. And I said this with the MSI panel, and you've heard me say this before, but this panel is for fast-paced esports games that can push out 500 frames per second. You're actually going to see all of those frames with a panel like this. And for games that don't quite hit that mark, you'll still get snappier response times when you're aiming. So yeah, it's a bit of a balance between what you need and what actually makes a difference. 500Hz is pretty nuts. Trust me, once you see stuff like this, it's gonna change you forever. So I guess, who is the G60SF for then? Well, honestly, it's built for people who love fast competitive games and they want that little bit of an edge, especially in stuff like esports or sweaty FPS games. I guess I'm just describing myself at this point. That said, if you're more of a cozy gamer or you play stuff that's never gonna hit those kind of frame rates, do yourself a favor and grab something other than this monitor. There's heaps of better suited options out there. Same goes for console players. This thing right here tops out at 120Hz for you. So yeah, it'll work, but you'll get way more value with a different panel. And with this on a console, you're just leaving performance on the table. If this is all beginning to sound like deja vu, then you're right, because it is deja vu. After not using the MSI MAG 272Q PX50 for a few weeks and going back to my 144Hz panel and then going back to this G60SF, I had that moment again, feeling like my aging 144Hz panel was like a slideshow. And it's so weird, but at 500Hz, just to put it quite simply, it's pretty psycho. And once you've used it, it's just annoying to go back to anything else. All right, gamers. The OGs already know this about me. I'm a Call of Duty and Warzone kind of guy. If you're new here, welcome to the party. I play COD, that's my jam. I'm on pretty much every single night, catching up with the Discord homies and letting my short hair down, you know? Sometimes you just gotta let it out. I've been repping COD since day one. Well, actually since the COD 4 glory days. People love to hate on the state of Call of Duty right now, but the truth is just get good, stop crying about it, learn to aim. I'm not a fan of all the silly cosmetics, but that won't change the game if you can't aim. Also, the hackers are pretty ridiculous in COD. Ricochet doesn't work, that's a side quest. I'm gonna stop talking, I'm rambling about how... Okay, all right, anyway. As for games like Counter-Strike, Siege, Overwatch, Valorant, Apex, nah, not for me. I don't hate it, they're just not my flavor. I stick to Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Arma. That's my holy trinity. Even though I did play Siege on the G60SF for about an hour, I can't get into the game, it's just not my jam. Which kind of leads me into what's different about this panel as compared to the MSI panel. This panel is punchier overall, and as a product, it just feels a bit more polished. Sorry to say it. I feel like sometimes with MSI, Asus, and Aorus, they always fight for the best and fastest panel, but miss out on the polish of the product itself. This is where something like the G60SF feels different. I guess the main issue I have with the G60SF is the price as compared to the MSI and Aorus panels. The MSI panel here, at least in Australia, is around about 1,400 Aussie dollars, while the Aorus FO27Q5P, which we haven't got our hands on yet, is around about 1,600 Aussie dollars. And the G60SF is set to be around $1,700 in August. Keep in mind, it's not August yet. The Samsung might do anything. They could change the price. We just don't know. Finally, we get into the good part of the video. Would I actually recommend the G60SF for people? Well, as I always say, well, you know, the internet has a lot of opinions on things. I wouldn't say it's good value for money because it's not what a 500Hz panel is about. It's expensive. The G60SF is all about performance and getting the edge in gaming if you care about that kind of thing. Much like the MSI panel we tested, I can't recommend the G60SF as your main monitor. The main thing you'll notice when doing regular things is the text clarity. That could be because, for me at least, I notice that kind of thing, but typically I use 4K displays as my main displays, but that's probably why I notice. That said, this is a gaming focused panel, and text in games is not the same as the text on a spreadsheet, which you're not going to use the G60SF for. I'm sorry, but you're not using this for normal things. It's a gaming monitor, right? There are lots of 240Hz OLEDs out there that'll tick all the boxes and save you a few bucks too. This is not your main monitor, okay? Because at 240Hz with all those other panels, you're not missing out on much. This is not a one-size-fits-all kind of monitor. It's fast, it's flashy, and yeah, it's really freaking cool. But right now, unless you're happy to give up a bit of text clarity, a 1440p 500Hz OLED isn't exactly a must-have. That's why, I said it already, that's why I reckon the G60SF makes way more sense as your main gaming monitor, part of a dedicated gaming setup where it can do its thing, rather than being your everything, all-day monitor. And look, the Samsung Odyssey is stacked with features, but at the end of the day, you've got to ask, do you actually need 500Hz? Do you need all that? If not, it's totally fine. Pick what fits you and save some money, but, you know, if you got to have 500Hz, which I got to have it, trust me, once I've had it, I've got to have it. The more I use panels like this, especially the G60SF, the more I think about ditching my aging 43-inch 4K 144 Hz monitor, I've had that thing for ages. It's really hard to let go of it because it's so big. Until someone makes a big, fast OLED, I'm going to hang on to that one for a bit longer. This is very close to replacing it, but it's only 27 inches. That's what she said.
And you know we're about the size.
Got to be bigger, bigger number better.
Yeah.
Right?
The bigger the better.
So 500 Hz, 43-inch OLED, Samsung, make it happen.
Hey, put it into the universe.
Someone's got to make it happen.
Samsung overlords. Listen.
Well, they do make the actual physical panels inside all of them. So if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Samsung. So figure it out.
They have the
and
technology.
you've got my number. Give me a call. Once you have the 43-inch or even 42-inch, it's got to have DisplayPort. TVs aren't counted. And TVs also don't do 500 Hertz. TVs are not monitors.
We need to put an old man hat on you.
I feel like there needs to be a shirt. TVs are not monitors. If it doesn't have DisplayPort, it's not a monitor. If it can't turn itself off when I shut my computer down, it's not a monitor. If it has some type of timeout feature that I need to set in the menu on a TV, it's not a monitor. It's not a monitor.
I love this rant.
What? It's true. Everyone's like, oh, just buy like an an LG OLED or a Samsung OLED TV and use your monitor. No.
It's not
illegal. Not a monitor. Monitors are monitors and monitors are monitors.
Enjoyed this public service announcement.
Claire's only standing here because the camera is freaking out today. And I'm freaking out and I just want to... Yep. I'm out.
Yep.
This is take number 4000 and the mic died midway through this. I had to use a power bank to... Man.
We do what we have to do.
I need a holiday. This is bullshit.